Hi friends, my name is Maruti and I'm the co-founder of Kraku. In this video, we'll be explaining the quant questions from CAT 2021 slot 1. We'll initially show the question and after that we'll provide the explanation. So if you're trying to attempt the question on your own, please do pause the video. Many students ask us what is a good place to practice CAT level questions. I want to tell you that Kraku's daily targets are an excellent resource to practice CAT level questions. Every single day we give one LRDI set, we give 5 questions in quant from the same topic, and we also give one reading comprehension set. All of these questions have detailed video solutions and they are taken by thousands of students every single day. So if you're looking for a good place to prepare for CAT level questions, definitely do check out the Kraku daily target. In addition to that, as CAT is approaching, I want to recommend you to take as many mocks as you can, and Kraku's dash CATs are very similar to actual CAT. All of the questions have detailed video solutions. If you get stuck somewhere, you can definitely check out the video solution. We have put in a lot of effort in making this kind of videos. So please do like this video, and if you have any doubts, please do comment your doubts, and please do subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon. In this question, we are told that there are two trains which cross each other in 14 seconds when traveling in opposite directions. So let us assume that this is the first train and this is the second train. Now let us assume that the first one is the faster train. We are told that it crosses a pole, it is 160 meters long, so this is 160 meters, and it will cross a person or a lamp post in 12 seconds. So the speed of this train is 160 divided by 16, 160 divided by 12 because it crosses the lamp post in 12 seconds. This is equal to 40 by 3 meter per second. We are told that the slower train is 6 kilometers per hour lesser. Now we have to convert meter per second into kilometers per hour. Whenever you are looking to convert meter per second into kilometers per hour, you have to multiply it by 18 by 5. So if you are multiplying 40 by 3 into 18 by 5, this is its speed. 40 by 3 into 18 by 5, this is 6 and this is 8. This is equal to 48 kilometers per hour. That is the speed of the faster train. So the speed of the slower train will be 42 kilometers per hour. If you are trying to convert kilometers per hour into meter per second, you have to multiply it by 5 by 18. So 42 into 5 by 18, this will be 7 and this is 3, will be equal to 35 by 3 meter per second. Let the length of this train be equal to L. We know that both the trains completely cross each other in exactly 14 seconds. So the total distance traveled by them combined will be L plus 160, and their relative speed is 40 by 3 plus 35 by 3, which is equal to 75 by 3 into the time taken is 14 seconds. 75 by 3 is 25. 25 into 14 is equal to 350. So the value of the length will be equal to 190 meters. That is the length of the slower train. So the correct answer is option C. In this question, we are told that the area of a regular hexagon is equal to the area of an equilateral triangle of side 12 centimeters. Let us assume that the side of the regular hexagon is S. If you know the side of a regular hexagon, what is its area? The formula for the area of a regular hexagon is given by 3 root 3 divided by 2 into S square. And what is the area of an equilateral triangle? When you know its length of each side, it will be equal to root 3 by 4 into A square. But here the value of A is 12. So if you are equating both of them, 3 root 3 by 2 into S square is equal to root 3 by 4 into 12 into 12. We can cancel root 3 on both sides. We can cancel 3 because 12 by 4 is 3. So the value of S square is equal to 12 into 2, which is 24. Or the value of S is square root of 24 centimeters. Square root of 24 is equal to 2 into square root of 6 centimeters. So the correct answer is option D. In this question, we are told that suppose the length of each side of a regular hexagon ABCDEF is 2 centimeters. So let us assume that this is how the hexagon is. This is AB, this is BC, this is CD, this is DE, this is EF, and this is FA. This is A, this is B, this is C, this is D, this is E, and this is F. Each side of this regular hexagon is 2 centimeters. So this is 2 centimeters, this is 2 centimeters, and this is 2 centimeters, and so on. We are told that T is the midpoint of CD. So T is over here. So the length of CT will be 1 centimeter and the length of TD will be 1 centimeter. We are asked to calculate the length of AT. So let us first connect A to T, and we are asked to calculate the length of AT. To calculate the length of AT, let us first calculate the length of AC. Once we calculate the length of AC, calculating the length of AT will be quite easy. We will see why. The first thing we should notice is that every angle in a regular hexagon will be equal to 120 degrees. So now if you are looking at the triangle ABC, we know two sides, the lengths of both the sides are 2 centimeters and 2 centimeters, and the angle between them is 120 degrees. So if you assume that the length of AC is x, using the cosine rule, x square will be equal to 2 square plus 2 square, that is the sum of the squares of the remaining two sides, minus 2 times the product of the two sides, which is 2 into 2 into cos of the angle between them, which is cos 120 degrees. This is equal to 2 square is 4 plus another 2 square is 4. Cos 120 degrees is minus 1 by 2. So this becomes equal to plus 2 into 2 into 2 into 1 by 2. This is another 4. Or x square is equal to square root of x is equal to square root of 12, because x square is equal to 12. So the length of AC is 12, square root of 12 centimeters. We know that angle ABC is 120 degrees. So angle BAC will be 30 degrees and angle BCA will also be equal to 30 degrees. What this is going to tell us is that now the angle ACD will be 90 degrees. Because the angle BCD is the interior angle of a regular hexagon, which will be equal to 120 degrees. If you are removing 30 degrees from it, the remaining angle will be 90 degrees. So now triangle ACT is a right angle triangle. One of the side is square root of 12 centimeters. Another side is 1 centimeter, which is CT. AT is the hypotenuse. So AT square will be square root of 12 whole square, which is 12, plus 1 square, which is 1. So this is equal to 13. So the length of AT will be equal to square root of 13 centimeters. So the correct answer is option A. In this question, we are told that Anu, Vinu and Manu take 15, 12 and 20 days respectively to finish a particular job. So we have Anu takes 15 days. We have Vinu takes 12 days. And Manu takes 20 days. We are given the time that is taken by each one of them to finish the work. So let us assume that the total work that needs to be done is the LCM of 15, 12 and 20. What is the LCM of 15, 12 and 20? That is equal to 60 units. So in one day, the amount of work done by Anu will be 60 divided by 15, which is 4. In one day, the amount of work done by Vinu is 60 units divided by 12 days, which is 5. And in one day, the amount of work done by Manu will be 60 divided by 20, which is equal to 3. But we are told that all three of them don't work every day. Only Vinu works every day. So on the first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, seventh day, eighth day, all of these days, the only person who works is Vinu, and every day she is going to complete 5 units of work. And on odd days, Anu works. So Anu works on the first day. Anu works on the third day. Anu works on the fifth day. Anu works on the seventh day, and so on. And on the even days, Manu works. Manu works on alternate days starting from the second day. So Manu works here on the second day, on the fourth day, on the sixth day, on the eighth day, and so on. So what is the total amount of work done on the first day? Vinu does 5 units of work and Anu does 4 units of work. So on the first day, the amount of work done is 9. On the second day, Vinu does 5 units and Manu does only 3 units. So the amount of work done is 8. On the third day again 9, on the fourth day again 8, on the fifth day again 9, on the sixth day again 8, on the seventh day again 9, and so on. So after the first day 9 units of work is done. After the second day 17 units of work is done. After the third day 17 plus 9, that is 26 units of work is done. After the 4th day, 26 plus 8, that is 34 units of work is done. After the 5th day, 34 plus 9, that is 43 units of work is done. After the 6th day, 43 plus 8, so 51 units of work is done. And after the 7th day, 51 plus 9, that is 60 units of work is done, which is the total amount of work that needs to be done. So the total number of days it takes to finish the job in this particular work order is 7 days. In this question, we are told that the amount of money that Neeta and Geeta earn in one day is equal to the amount of money that Sita earns in 6 days. So n plus g is equal to 6s, and the amount that Sita and Neeta earn in one day is equal to the amount that Geeta earns in 2 days. So this is equal to 2g. We are asked to calculate the ratio of the daily earnings of the person who earns the most to the person who earns the least. This ratio is what we are required to calculate. If you are looking at the first two equations, if you multiply the second equation by 6, you are going to get that 6s plus 6n is equal to 12g. But the value of 6s is n plus g. So n plus g plus 6n is equal to 12g, or 7n is equal to 11g, or the value of n is equal to 11 by 7g. Now if you substitute that in the first equation, you are going to get that 11 by 7g plus g is equal to 6s, or the value of 18 by 7g is equal to 6s, or the value of s is equal to 3 by 7g. So if you assume that g is equal to 7k for some value of k, the value of n will be 11k because n is 11 by 7g, and the value of s is equal to 3k because s is equal to 3 by 7g. So the highest is n and the least is s, and the ratio of n is to s is 11 is to 3. So the required answer is option C.
Google search CrackYourFreeCAT mocks. Click on the first link. You can attempt 3 latest mocks in the actual exam in the face. After completing the test, you get detailed solutions, analysis and percentile along with your scorecard to gauge your All India performance. Click on the solutions to get video solutions from our expert faculty.
In this question, we are told that onion is sold for 5 consecutive months and the rate at which it was sold per kg was rupees 10, rupees 20, rupees 25, rupees 25 and rupees 50. The amount spent for the first 3 months was fixed, and the amount spent for the remaining 2 months was half of that original amount. So let us assume that the fixed amount that was spent on the first 3 months is 100f. This is also 100f. This is also 100f. And for the remaining 2 months, half of this amount was spent. So it would be 50f and 50f. So the total amount that is spent is 100 plus 100 plus 100 plus 50 plus 50. So the total amount is equal to 400f. And what is the total amount of onions that were bought? It is 100f by 10, which is 10f, 100f by 20, which is 5f, 100f by 25, which is 4f, 50f by 25, which is 2f, and 50f by 50, which is f. This is the number of kgs of onions bought on each of these respective months. So the total number of onions that were bought, the weight will be 10f plus 5f plus 4f plus 2f plus f, which is 22f. So the cost of onion per kg on an average across these 5 months will be 400 divided by 22, which is equal to 200 divided by 11. 200 divided by 11 will be approximately equal to 18.18. This is the price, average price per kg. If you are looking at the options, the closest one is 18 rupees. So that will be the answer. In this question, we are asked to calculate the number of 3 or more distinct numbers that can be chosen out of a group of 8 numbers. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8. And out of these 8, we should select 3 or more numbers. But we have some conditions involved. 3 and 5 should always be included. And 7 and 8 should not be included together. So if you're looking at the numbers, 3 and 5 are definitely part of it. So we don't have any choice with respect to 3 and 5. They have to definitely be included. So the only choice that we have is with respect to the remaining 6 numbers. And out of these 6 numbers, we should select at least one or more, because 3 and 5 are already selected. Now the only condition that is left is with respect to 7 and 8. Both 7 and 8 should not be selected together. So now let us consider 3 cases. In the first case, only 7 is selected and not 8. In the second case, only 8 is selected and not 7. And in the last case, neither 7 nor 8 is selected. These are the 3 cases to consider. If only 7 is selected, then we already have 3 numbers that are selected. 3 and 5 are already there and 7 is already included. 8 is not included. So we have a lot of choice with respect to 1, 2, 4 and 6. Each of these 4 numbers can either be selected or not selected. So the number of ways in which we can pick in this particular case will be 2. This is the number of ways in which 1 can be decided. It can either be selected or not selected. Into 2, same with the number 2. Into 2, same with the number 4. Into 2, same with the number 6. So there are a total of 16 cases. Similarly, in the case where 8 is selected and not 7. Now we have 3 and 5 already and we have 8. So the minimum of 3 numbers is already qualified and we have to make the choice about 1, 2, 4 and 6 again. And the total number of ways in which this can be done is again 2 to the power 4, which is 16. Each of the number can either be selected or not selected. So each of the number has 2 choices. So the overall choice is 16. Now let us assume that 7 is not selected and 8 is not selected. We have only 2 numbers, 3 and 5. So we have to select at least 1 out of 1, 2, 4 and 6. So the number of ways this can be done is again 2 to the power 4 minus 1. So for each of the numbers again we have a case. Either 1 can be selected or not selected, that is 2 ways. Either 2 can be selected or not selected, another 2 ways. Either 4 can be selected or not selected, again 2 ways. Either 6 can be selected or not selected. So the total is 16. But the one case where neither 4 of them is selected has to be subtracted, because in that case only 3 and 5 are selected and the total number of numbers selected will be only 2. We need at least 3 numbers to be selected. So out of this 16, we will be removing one particular case, so we will be left with 15 subcases. So the total number of ways in which 3 or more numbers can be selected out of the given 8 numbers, such that 3 and 5 are always selected and only one of, at most one of 7 and 8 is selected, is 16 plus 16 plus 15, which is equal to 47. In this question, we are told that Amal purchased some pens at rupees 8 and then he has hired an employee at a fixed wage. Let us assume that the number of pens bought is equal to n. So the total cost price or the total expense that Amal has incurred will be equal to 8n plus the wage of the employee, which we assume is equal to f. So this is the total cost price. In the first case, he sells 100 of these at 12 rupees per pen and the remaining at 11 per pen. So the first selling price, the total selling price 1 is equal to 12 into 100 plus how many pens are remaining? It will be n minus 100 into 11. This is the first selling price. This is the total revenue that he makes in the first case. And in the second case, he sells the first 100 pens at 12 and the remaining pens, that is n minus 100 pens, at rupees 9. So the revenue differs. So if you are simplifying the total revenue in the first case, this will be equal to 11n plus 100, and in the second case, this is equal to 9n plus 300. We are told that in the first case, he makes a profit of 300. So 11n plus 100, which is the revenue in the first case, is equal to 8n plus f plus 300, and he makes a loss of 300 in the second case. So 9n plus 300, which is the revenue he makes in the second case, is equal to 8n plus f minus 300. So we have two equations and two unknowns, n and f. We are required to calculate the value of the wage of the employee, so we are required to calculate the value of f. If you are simplifying the first equation, we are going to get that 3n is equal to f plus 200. And in the second case, we are going to get that n is equal to f minus 600. We are required to calculate the value of f. So we are going to substitute the value of n in the first equation. So 3 times n will be 3 times f minus 600 is equal to f plus 200. Or the value of 2f will be equal to 2000, or the value of f is equal to 1000. So the fixed wage that is given to the employee is rupees 1000. In this question, we are told that a basket of 2 apples plus 4 oranges plus 6 mangoes costs the same as a basket of 1 apple plus 4 oranges plus 8 mangoes. And this costs the same as a basket of 8 oranges and 7 mangoes. We are asked to calculate how many mangoes can a basket which is consisting only of mangoes fit in a basket which costs the same as each of these 3 baskets. So basically we are given 2 equations. This is one equation and this is another equation, and there are 3 unknowns. The 3 unknowns are apples cost, orange cost and mangoes cost. So we are going to find out the value of how much an apple will cost in terms of mangoes and how much an orange will cost in terms of mangoes. Then we will convert the price of each of these baskets into mangoes. Then we will get the answer. So if you are equating the first 2 equations, first 2 expressions, if 2a plus 4o plus 6m is equal to a plus 4o plus 8m, we can cancel 4o on both sides. So 2a plus 6m will equal a plus 8m, or the value of a is equal to 2m. So the price of 1 apple is equal to the price of 2 mangoes. Similarly, if you are equating the second 2, the last 2 expressions, we can cancel 4o. So a plus m will be equal to 4o. But we know that a is equal to 2m. So 2m plus m is equal to 4o, or the value of o is equal to 3 by 4m. So we have found out the value of how much a orange will cost in terms of mangoes. We have found out how much an apple costs in terms of mangoes. So we can convert any one of the 3 expressions. The number of mangoes will be the same. If you are looking at, say, the first expression, 2a will be equal to 4m plus 4o will be equal to 4 into 3 by 4, so 3m plus 6m. This is the cost of the first basket in terms of mangoes. So this is equal to 13 mangoes. So the correct answer is option B, which is 13. In this question, we are given an inequality which says that modulus of n minus 60 is less than modulus of n minus 100 is less than modulus of n minus 20, and we are asked to calculate how many integers n satisfy this given inequality. If you are looking at the inequality, there are 3 modulus in it, and each of the modulus will have an inflection point. That is the point at which the modulus will change its sign. The first one is at 60, the second one is at 100, and the third one is at 20. So let us consider 4 cases. The first case is when n is less than 20. The second case is when n lies between 20 and 60. The next case is when n lies between 60 and 100. And the last case is when n is greater than 100. Because we have to look for even the inflection points at 20, 60 and 100. In the first one we will include 20, in the second one we will include 60, and in the third one we will include 100. Now if you are looking at the first interval when n is less than or equal to 20, then the value of modulus of n minus 20 will be 20 minus n. And the value of modulus of n minus 100 will be 100 minus n. And the value of the modulus of n minus 60 will be 60 minus n, because n is less than 20. So the given inequality will transform to become equal to 60 minus n is less than 100 minus n. This is the first part of the inequality. And we want the second inequality also to be true, which is that 100 minus n should be less than 20 minus n. If you are simplifying the first part, we can cancel minus n from both sides. So we want 60 to be less than 100, which is true. And we want, again we will cancel minus n from both sides, and we want 100 to be less than 20. This is not true. So both the inequalities should be true in this interval, which is not happening. So there will be no value of n which is less than or equal to 20 for which these 2 inequalities will be true. That is, modulus of n minus 60 is less than modulus of n minus 100, as well as modulus of n minus 100 being less than modulus of n minus 20. Let us look at the second interval. In the second interval, 20 is less than n is less than or equal to 60. If 20 is less than n, the value of modulus of n minus 20 will be n minus 20. The value of modulus of n minus 100 will be 100 minus n, and the value of modulus of n minus 60 will be 60 minus n. So the given inequality will become equal to 60 minus n is less than 100 minus n, and 100 minus n is less than n minus 20. Both of these should be true. The first inequality can be simplified to equal 60 is less than 100, which is always true. And the second inequality would imply that 120 is less than 2n, or the value of 60 is less than n. But in this interval, we assumed that n is lying between 20 and 60. N is not greater than 60. So again, there will be no value of n which lies between 20 and 60 such that both of these given inequalities will be true. Let us look at the third interval. In this case, modulus of n minus 60 will be n minus 60. Modulus of n minus 100 will be 100 minus n, and modulus of n minus 20 will be n minus 20. So the first part of the inequality will be that n minus 60 is less than 100 minus n, and the second part is that 100 minus n is less than n minus 20. The first part can be simplified to equal 2n is less than 160, and the second part can be simplified to equal 2n is greater than 120. Or basically we want n to be less than 80 and we want n to be greater than 60. In the given interval where n is lying between 60 and 100, there are some integers which lie between 60 and 80, and they are 61, 62, ... till 79. So there are 19 such integers in this interval. Let us look at the last interval where n is greater than 100. If n is greater than 100, the values of all of these modulus will become very easy. Value of modulus of n minus 100 is n minus 100, value of modulus of n minus 60 is n minus 60, and value of modulus of n minus 20 is n minus 20. So in this particular case, the two inequalities are n minus 60 is less than n minus 100 and n minus 100 is less than n minus 20. We can cancel n. So we want minus 60 to be less than minus 100, which is not true, because minus 60 is actually greater than minus 100. So the first part of this inequality is not true whenever n is greater than 100. In the second part, minus 100 is actually less than minus 20. This is true, but we know that the first part is not true. So both the inequalities are never satisfied whenever n is greater than 100. So the only set of integers which satisfy this given inequality, this whole inequality, lie between 60 and 80, and there are 19 such integers. They are 61, 62, ... till 79. So the correct answer is option B.
We at Kraku provide all the previous year CAT papers along with many other MBA examinations such as IIFT, XAT, SNAP, MAT, CMAT, TIS and PGDBA in the actual exam format. You can attempt them as a test and get a detailed analysis of your performance or download them as PDFs.
In this question, we are asked to find out how many 3-digit numbers are greater than 100 and increase by 198 when the 3 digits are reversed. Let us assume that the 3-digit number is A, B and C, where A is in the hundreds place, B is in the tens place and C is in the units place. So the value of this 3-digit number will be equal to 100A plus 10B plus C. For example, if the 3-digit number is say 243, the value of 243 is 2 into 100, that is 200, plus 4 into 10, that is 40, plus 3 into 1, that is 3. So this is 200 plus 40 plus 3. When the digits are reversed, it becomes equal to CBA, and the value becomes equal to 100C plus 10B plus A, or the increase in the value is equal to 100C plus 10B plus A minus 100A plus 10B plus C, which is equal to 99C minus 99A. This we are told is equal to 198. If you divide both sides with 99, we are going to get that C minus A is equal to 2, or the value of C is equal to A plus 2. We are told that the 3-digit number is greater than 100. So the value of A is greater than 1, greater than or equal to 1. So what are the values that A can take? If A is equal to 1, C is equal to 3. If A is equal to 2, C is equal to 4. If A is equal to 3, C is equal to 5. If A is equal to 4, C is equal to 6. If A is equal to 5, C is equal to 7. If A is equal to 6, C is equal to 8. And if A is equal to 7, C is equal to 9. We want the three numbers A, B and C to be strictly less than 10 because they are single digit numbers. So the values that A can take are 7. For each value that A is taking, C has exactly one value. That is, when you fix the value of A, C has to be equal to A plus 2. Now what will B take? B can take any value. There is no restriction on B. B can be either 0 or 1 or 2 or ... till 9 in each of these cases. So the number of values that B can take is 10. So the total number of such numbers is 7 into 10, which is equal to 70. This will be the answer. In this question, we are told that Anil invests some money at a fixed rate of interest which is compounded annually, and the interest that is accrued in the second and third year is 806.25 and 866.72 respectively. We are asked to calculate the interest accrued in the fourth year. If there is an amount P which is invested at a rate of interest R, the amount at the end of the first year is P into 1 plus R. The amount at the end of the second year is P into 1 plus R whole square. The amount at the end of the third year is P into 1 plus R whole cube. The amount at the end of the fourth year is P into 1 plus R whole to the power 4. We are given the interest accrued in the second year. So we are given the value of the amount at the end of the second year minus the value of the amount at the end of the first year. That difference is the interest that has accrued in the second year. So P into 1 plus R whole square minus P into 1 plus R is given. This is equal to 806.25. If you take P into 1 plus R common, we will take 1 plus R from the first bracket minus 1 from the second bracket. So this is P into 1 plus R into R is equal to 806.25. This is just the simplification of the first equation. The interest accrued in the second year is calculated. The interest accrued in the third year is 866.72. So the amount at the end of the third year minus the amount at the end of the second year is given. So P into 1 plus R whole cube minus P into 1 plus R whole square is 866.72. Now if you are taking P into 1 plus R whole square common, we will get 1 plus R from the first bracket minus 1. So this is R. So P into 1 plus R whole square into R is equal to 866.72. So this is the second equation and this is the first equation. If you divide the second equation by the first equation, you are going to get that 1 plus R is equal to 866.72 divided by 806.25. What are we required to calculate? We are required to calculate the interest that is accrued during the fourth year. So we are asked to calculate P into 1 plus R to the power 4 minus P into 1 plus R whole cube. This is equal to what? If you take P into 1 plus R whole cube common, you will get 1 plus R from the first equation, from the first term, minus 1 from the second term. So this is R. What is the value of P into 1 plus R whole cube into R? We know that the value of P into 1 plus R whole square into R is 866.72. We also know that the value of 1 plus R is 866.72 divided by 806.25. So the value of P into 1 plus R whole cube into R will be equal to 866.72 into 866.72 divided by 806.25. You can simplify this. This will be equal to 931.72. So the answer for this question is option C, which is 931.72. In this question, we are told that hospital A admitted 21 COVID patients less than hospital B. So this is hospital A and this is hospital B. Let us assume that the number of admissions in hospital A is X. So the number of admissions in hospital B will be X plus 21. Let us assume that the average recovery time, there is some information given about that also. The average recovery time in hospital A was 3 days more than that of hospital B. So let us assume that the number of average days of recovery in hospital B is A. So the average recovery days in hospital A is A plus 3. We are told that the total recovery days in hospital A is 200. So that would imply that X into A plus 3 is 200. And total recovery days in hospital B is 152. So X plus 21 into A is 152. What this implies is that X into A plus 3 is equal to 200, while X plus 21 into A is equal to 152. We are required to calculate the number of people who are admitted in hospital A. So we are required to calculate the value of X. So let us try to eliminate A. The value of A is equal to 152 divided by X plus 21 from the second equation. We will substitute that in the first equation. So X into 152 divided by X plus 21 plus 3 is equal to 200, or X into 152 plus 3X plus 63 is equal to 200 into X plus 21. This would imply that X into 3X plus 215 is equal to 200 into X plus 21. So 3X square plus 215x is equal to 200x plus 4200, or 3x square plus 15x minus 4200 is equal to 0. If you divide the entire equation by 3, x square plus 5x minus 1400 is equal to 0. This is a quadratic equation which can be factorized to equal x plus 40 into x minus 35 is equal to 0. So the value of x is either equal to minus 40 or the value of x is equal to 35. So the required equation is that the number of patients who are admitted in hospital A, which is equal to x, is equal to 35. That will be the answer. In this question, we are told that there is a circle of diameter 8 inches, that is, the radius of the circle is 4 inches. This can be inscribed in a right angle triangle where one of the angles is 90 degrees. So let us first draw the triangle. So let us assume that this is the triangle. B is the right angle, this is A and this is C. We are told that one of the sides is 10 inches, so this is 10, and the in radius is 4 inches. This is the information that is given to us. We are asked to calculate the area of the triangle. In the right angle triangle, if you assume that the two sides, the two non-hypotenuse sides are A and B, and the hypotenuse is equal to C, then the in radius is equal to A plus B minus C divided by 2. And the circumradius, although this is not important for this question, the circumradius of a right angle triangle is C by 2. That is, it is half the length of the hypotenuse. In this case, let us assume that the length of AB is small a and the length of AC is equal to C. Then we know that A plus 10 minus C divided by 2 is the in radius, which is equal to 4. Or this would imply that A plus 10 minus C is equal to 8, or the value of C is equal to A plus 2. This is a right angle triangle, so the squares of the non-hypotenuse sides, when you sum them up, will equal the length of the hypotenuse whole squared, or essentially C square is equal to A square plus 100, which is 10 square, but C square is equal to A plus 2 whole square. So that will be A square plus 4A plus 4 is equal to A square plus 100. We can cancel A square on both sides. So the value of A plus 1 is equal to 25. Or the value of A is equal to 24. So this is 24 inches and the hypotenuse is 26 inches. Now the area of this right angle triangle will be half into base into height. So that is half into 24 into 10, which is equal to 120 square inches. That will be the answer. In this question, we are told that f of x is x square plus 2x minus 15 divided by x square minus 7x minus 18, and we want to find out when f of x is negative. What are the intervals of x for which f of x is negative? If you are looking at f of x, it is the numerator is x square plus 2x minus 15. This can be factorized to equal x plus 5 into x minus 3. and the denominator is x square minus 7x minus 18. This can be factorized to equal x minus 9 into x plus 2. So what we are required to calculate is the values of x for which x plus 5 into x minus 3 divided by x plus 2 into x minus 9, this has to be less than 0. If you multiply the both sides, the left hand side and the right hand side, with x plus 2 into x minus 9 whole square, that will be a positive number because it is a perfect square, and the right hand side will be 0 into x plus 2 into x minus 9 whole square, so that will remain 0, and the left hand side, basically the denominator comes to the numerator. So it can be simplified to equal x plus 5 into x minus 3, which is the numerator, into x plus 2 into x minus 9. We want to know for what values of x this is less than 0. Now if you are looking at this expression, what are the roots of this expression? The roots are minus 5, 3, minus 2 and 9. So let us draw the number line. This is the number line, and let us plot the 4 roots. The smallest root is minus 5, this will come over here. The second smallest root is minus 2, we have minus 5, we have minus 2. Then we are going to get 3, and finally we are going to get 9. If the value of x is greater than 9, all of these 4 terms will be positive. If you are assuming that the value of x is say 10, 10 plus 5 is 15, 10 minus 3 is 7, 10 plus 2 is 12 and 10 minus 9 is 1. All of them are positive. So their product will be positive. If x is lying between 3 and 9, let us assume that the value of x is say 5. Then x plus 5 will be positive, 5 plus 5 will be 10. X minus 3 will be positive, 5 minus 3 is 2. X plus 2 will be positive, 5 plus 2 is 7. But x minus 9 will be negative, 5 minus 9 is minus 4. So here we are getting the product of 3 positive numbers and 1 negative number. So this is negative. And the sign keeps alternating. If x is lying between minus 2 and 3, the sign will be positive, because 2 of the terms will be positive and 2 of the terms will be negative. The 2 positive terms will be x plus 5 and x plus 2. The 2 negative terms will be x minus 3 and x minus 9. The product of 2 positive terms and 2 negative terms is positive. Then we are going to get negative over here if x is lying between minus 5 and minus 2, because only one term x plus 5 will be positive, all the 3 remaining terms will be negative. And if x is less than minus 5, again it will be positive. Because all the 4 terms will be negative, the product of 4 negative terms will be positive. So if you are looking for this expression to be less than 0, x has to either lie between minus 2 and minus 5, or it has to lie between 3 and 9. So the correct answer is option A.
Google search CrackYourFreeCAD mocks. Click on the first link. You can attempt 3 latest mocks in the actual exam in the face. After completing the test, you get detailed solutions, analysis and percentile along with your scorecard to gauge your All India performance. Click on the solutions to get video solutions from our expert faculty.
In this question, we are told that 5 minus log of square root of 1 plus x plus 4 times log of square root of 1 minus x is equal to log of 1 by square root of 1 minus x square. The first thing to notice is that we want 1 plus x to be greater than 0. Otherwise, square root is not defined. Similarly, we want 1 minus x to be greater than 0. So this would imply that x has to lie between minus 1 and plus 1. The second thing we should notice is that the right hand side is log of 1 by square root of 1 minus x square. Log of 1 by square root of 1 minus x square is equal to minus of log of square root of 1 minus x square. But what is 1 minus x square? 1 minus x square is 1 minus x into 1 plus x. So this is equal to minus of log of square root of 1 minus x plus log of square root of 1 plus x. This is basically the right hand side. If you are inserting this in the equation, the left hand side remains the same. This is 5 minus log of square root of 1 plus x plus 4 times log of square root of 1 minus x is equal to minus of log of square root of 1 minus x minus of log of square root of 1 plus x. This is the simplified format of the right hand side. We can cancel minus of log of square root of 1 plus x on both sides. This would imply that 5 times log of square root of 1 minus x is equal to minus 5, or the value of log of square root of 1 minus x to the base 10 is equal to minus 1, Earlier we did not include the base because all the bases were the same and they are equal to 10. So this would imply that square root of 1 minus x is equal to 10 to the power minus 1, which is equal to 1 by 10. Or the value of 1 minus x is equal to 1 by 100. Or the value of x is equal to 99 by 100. So the value of 100x will be equal to 99. In this question, we are told that there are three friends, Amar, Akbar and Anthony, and they work together to finish a project. If Amar and Akbar are working together, they finish a project in 1 year, that is in 12 months. If Akbar and Anthony are working together, they finish it in 16 months. And if Anthony and Amar are working together, they complete it in 2 years, that is 24 months. Here we are given the amount of time that a pair of these people are taking. So let us assume that the total work that needs to be done is, say, the LCM of 24, 16 and 12. What is the least common multiple of 12, 16 and 24? That is 48. So let us assume that the total work that needs to be done is, say, 48 units. We arrived at 48 because it is the LCM of 12, 16 and 24. And we are using 48 because that will make the calculations easy. We can assume this total work that needs to be done to be any number. But if it is the LCM, many of the calculations become easy and we'll arrive at the answer faster. Let us assume that the amount of work done in 1 month by Amar is A, by Akbar is B, and by Anthony is, say, C. Then what is the value of A plus B? That is, what is the total amount of work done by Amar and Akbar in 1 month? They finish 48 units of work in 12 months. So in 1 month, they will be doing 4 units of work. What is the amount of work done by B and C, that is Akbar and Anthony? The amount of time taken by Akbar and Anthony to finish 48 units of work is 16 months. So in 1 month, they will be finishing 3 units of work. What is the amount of work done by Amar and Anthony, that is A plus C? Amar and Anthony, when they are working together, they finish the project in 2 years, that is 24 months. 48 units is completed in 24 months. So in 1 month, they finish 2 units of work. If you are adding all 3 of these equations, the left hand side becomes equal to 2 times A plus B plus C. This is equal to 9, or the value of A plus B plus C is equal to 4.5 units. So if all 3 of them are working together, in 1 month, they finish 4.5 units of work. We know that A plus B is 4 and A plus B plus C is 4.5. So the value of C is 0.5. Similarly, the value of A is 4.5 minus 3, which is 1.5, and the value of B is 4.5 minus 2, which is 2.5. This is the amount of work done by each one of them individually in 1 month. So the person who is not working the fastest or the slowest is A, and he does 1.5 units of work every month, and he has to complete 48 units of work. So how much time does it take? He is going to take 48 divided by 1.5. which is equal to 32 months. This is the number of months that the person who is in the middle takes to finish the entire work. In this question, we are told that x0 is equal to 1, x1 is equal to 2, and a formula is given to calculate the next number in the series. X of n plus 2 is equal to 1 plus x of n plus 1 divided by x of n. We know x0, this is equal to 1. We know x1, this is equal to 2. So the value of x2 will be equal to 1 plus 2 divided by 1, which is equal to 3. And the value of x3 will be equal to 1 plus 3 divided by 2, which is equal to 2. And the value of x4 is equal to 1 plus 2 divided by 3, which is equal to 1. Similarly, the value of x5 will be equal to 1 plus 1 divided by 2, which is equal to 1. And the value of x6 will be equal to 1 plus 1 divided by 1, which is equal to 2. And x7 is equal to 1 plus 2 divided by 1, which is equal to 3, and so on. So if you look at the pattern is that it is 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. So you have 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. This is x0, this is x1, this is x2, this is x3, this is x4. Then you have again 1, 2, 3, and you are going to get another 2, 1. So again you will have 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. This will be x5, this is x6, this is x7, this is x8, and this is x9, and so on. The pattern is repeating, so whenever you are getting a multiple of 5, it will the cycle is going to start at 1. You are asked to calculate the value of x of 2021. So x of 2020, which is a multiple of 5, will be over here, and that will equal 1, and x of 2021 will be 2. So the correct answer in this particular case is option D, which is equal to 2. In this question, we are told that the strength of an indigo solution in percentage is equal to the amount of indigo in grams per 100 cc of water. We have two 800 cc bottles which are filled with indigo solutions. One of them has 33% and another one has 17%. Some indigo from the first bottle is removed, and the same amount of indigo from the second bottle is used to fill the first bottle, and now the amount of the percentage of indigo in the first bottle has decreased. From 33% it has become equal to 21%. What we are asked to calculate is the volume of indigo, the volume of the solution that is left in the second bottle. Let us assume that the amount of solution that is left in the second bottle is x. So we are required to calculate the value of x. If x is remaining in the second bottle, what is the amount of solution that was poured from the second bottle to the first bottle? That would be 800 minus x. So what is the amount of indigo that was thrown out? The amount of indigo that was thrown out has to equal 800 minus x, because that is replenished by the solution from the second bottle. So the amount of the original solution of 33% which is left in the first bottle is therefore equal to x. So now we have x of 33% and we have 800 minus x of 17%. When you are mixing both of them, you are getting a solution. The strength of that solution is 21%. Using alligations method, we can calculate the ratio between x and 800 minus x. How can we do that simply? We'll first calculate 33 minus 21. 33 minus 21 is 12, so that will be over here. And what is 21 minus 17? 21 minus 17 is 4. So this is 4. So the ratio of x is to 800 minus x has to be equal to 4 divided by 12. 4 by 12 is basically 1 by 3. So now if you cross multiply, 3x will be equal to 800 minus x, or the value of 4x is 800, or the value of x is 200. So the amount of solution that is left in the second bottle will be 200 ml. In this question, we are told that identical chocolate pieces are sold in two different types of boxes. One is a small box and one is a large box. The price of the large box is twice the price of the small box. So if you are looking at prices, if you assume that the price of a small box is x, then the price of a large box is 2x. But the selling price per gram, this is the total price, the price per gram of the large box is 12% less than that of the small box. So if you assume that the price per gram of the small box is k, the price per gram of the large box will be 0.88k. The percentage by which the weight of the chocolate in the large box exceeds that of the small box is what we are required to calculate. If you are given the price and if you are given the price per gram, what is the weight? The weight will be x divided by k. Because if you are told that there is a quantity, there is a price for 1 gram is say rupees 10. And if you are told that the total price of a particular object is say 1000, then the weight of the object will be 1000 divided by 10. Similarly, in this particular case, if you are given the price and the price per gram, the weight will be x divided by k. And in case of the large one, it will be 2x divided by 0.88k. 2x divided by 0.88k, you can use your calculator. This will be equal to 2.2727 x by k. That is the weight. So the weight of the large one, which is equal to 2.2727 xk, exceeds the weight of the small one, which is x by k, by 127.27%. Amongst the options, the closest one is option B, which is 127%.
We at Kraku provide all the previous year CAT papers along with many other MBA examinations such as IIFT, ZAT, SNAP, MAT, CMAT, TIS and PGDBA in the actual exam format. You can attempt them as a test and get a detailed analysis of your performance or download them as PDFs.
In this question, we are told that natural numbers are divided into groups. The first group has only 1. The second group has 2, 3 and 4. The third group has 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 and so on. If you are looking at the groups, you would notice that the last number of the nth group is n square. The last number in the first group is 1. The last number in the second group is 4. The last number in the third group is 9 and so on. So what is the last number of the 15th group? The last number of the 15th group will be 225. And what is the last number of the 14th group? The last number of the 14th group will be equal to 196. So if you are calculating the sum of all the numbers in the 15th group, we have to essentially calculate the sum of 197 plus 198 plus ... till 225. This is an arithmetic progression. We know the first term and the last term. And the number of terms over here will be 29. There are 29 such numbers. If you are including 197 and 225. So the sum of these numbers will be the sum of the first number plus last number divided by 2 into the number of numbers. If you are given an arithmetic progression, if you know the number of terms, if the number of terms is n, if you know the first term, if it is equal to f, and if you know the last term, if it is equal to l, the sum of the arithmetic progression is n into f plus l divided by 2. Here the number of terms is 29, the first term is 197, the last term is 225, so you divide it by 2. This is equal to 29 into 422 divided by 2, this is 29 into 211. This can be simplified to equal 6119, that will be the answer. In this question, we are given a quadratic equation which involves a modulus and we are asked to calculate the value of r for which this quadratic equation has exactly 3 distinct real roots. Now, if you are looking at the equation, because this involves modulus, the left hand side is always greater than or equal to 0. This would imply that r itself has to be greater than or equal to 0. The second thing is, if you are removing the modulus, the sign will change. So, either x square minus 4x minus 13 is either equal to r, or if x square minus 4x minus 13 is actually negative, then it would imply that x square minus 4x minus 13 is equal to minus r. Both of these cases are possible. If you are simplifying the first case, it would imply that x square minus 4x minus 13 minus r is equal to 0, or in the second case, x square minus 4x minus 13 plus r is equal to 0. Every quadratic equation has a discriminant. If you are assuming that the quadratic equation is of the form ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0, the value of the discriminant d is equal to b square minus 4ac. And if this d is greater than 0, the given quadratic equation will have 2 real roots. If the value of the discriminant d is equal to 0, it will have 1 distinct real root. And if the value of this discriminant d is less than 0, it would imply that there are no real roots. Let us calculate the discriminant for both of these quadratic equations. If you are looking at the discriminant 1, which is d1, this will be equal to b square. So, minus 4 whole square is 16 minus 4 times minus 13 minus r. Or you can simplify this, this will be equal to 68 plus 4r. This is the first discriminant. If you are looking at the discriminant of the second quadratic equation, this is equal to minus 4 whole square. So, again 16 minus 4 times minus 13 plus r. This will be equal to 68 minus 4r. These are the two discriminants of the two quadratic equations. We know that r is greater than or equal to 0. So, this sum 68 plus 4r is strictly greater than 0. This is greater than or equal to 68, which is basically greater than 0. So, the first quadratic equation will definitely have 2 real roots. This would imply that the second quadratic equation should have strictly 1 real root, 1 distinct real root. How is that going to happen? It would happen if this discriminant is actually equal to 0. In that particular case, this quadratic equation will have one distinct real root. So 68 minus 4r has to equal 0, or the value of r has to equal 17. So the answer for this question is option A, which is 17.